Good morning, pool fans. We're back live with another match here in day 6 in the European Championships. The match for today we will be following is none other than Italy's Ricardo versus Costas Georgiou, who is representing Cyprus. My name is Arya Sorabi. I will be doing my best to talk you through this match. Today's match is a race to 7, as you can see. The game we are playing is 8-ball. I was trying to do some research on both players. Ricardo, a former European champion, although that was in 9-ball. So he'll be looking to push on. And as for his opponent, Costas Georgiou, well, he's not had a lot of tournaments, participations in the seniors. His earliest has dated back since 2021. So far, he's failed to, well, reach the business end of these European Championships. As he starts off this match with a legal break, a successful break. Usually in 8-ball you tend to see a lot of good matches, a lot of break and runs, or at least run-outs. Such is the nature of the game. After the break there's always multiple options available to you. But with the same token, there's a lot of balls that can present some issues on the table. Costas looking to attack the solids here. His opening putt on the 3 was a solid one, but the cue ball just stopped short ever so slightly, so he has to now bridge over these balls. Could always take the 4, punch the cue ball up and down the top rail. These players are playing under time restraint. There's a shot clock in operation, and they have a extension, of course, 1 per player per rack. So if you're watching and you can sometimes hear someone in the background saying time, it's the match official notifying the players they have 10 seconds left on their turn. Didn't pot the 2 ball cleanly. That's why the cue ball is run into the 9. It's still okay, of course, here. Now, me, myself, I'd be inclined to try and play position on the 6 ball off this 5, if he's got enough angle to do so, of course. Looking a little bit thinner, potentially, than I would have thought. So, might have to go with a different route, alternative route. Now the position from the 7 to the 1 becomes increasingly more important here. If he leaves himself the wrong type of angle on the 1, playing position on the 6 becomes very challenging. You tend to think if you can pass this test here, the 7 onto the 1, give him great chance to... Ooh, we missed the 7. Well, it's not worth a lot in pool, but the cue ball was exactly in the right spot for the 1 onto the 6. But as you can see, the main part in attacking the balls is, of course, pocketing the ball. Gives us the opportunity to see Ricardo Cini for the first time at the table. Very nice positional shot played there. You can run this cue ball towards the left side rail for an option of either of the 15 or the 13. Likely to be one of the two in the middle pocket. If not, he can take on this 15, which is landed perfectly on, into the top right corner pocket. That 13 definitely puts in both of the middle pockets. Or, of course, the bottom left corner pocket. So that first positional shot he played was already a very, very good shot. It's created this chance. Even here he's played in areas. Although from this camera, well, the 14 ball does actually pass the 6. For a second there on the overview camera, I wasn't 100% sure whether it would. So he's played his cue ball in an area that if he wouldn't have fancied this spot, he could have always taken the 10. But I do believe this is the right shot. But of course in 8 ball, it's all about the 8, the final 8 ball. And well, you can see it clearly doesn't go into the bottom right corner pocket. So you need to play a very solid positional shot here. And he's not 100% perfect on the 10. Yeah, I had to play that with a lot of power. And it's always tough in the beginning rack to perfectly execute these types of shots. So it's looking like that mistake, early mistake by Costas, has not cost him. If he is absolutely dead straight, he could draw the cue ball back a few inches for the 6 in the same corner pocket. Felt he could control it. Nicely played. And you think there's nothing in his way to take the first rack here. Well, it's not so much the power in the shot. I think he played it hard enough, but because you're queuing down, it's tough to generate enough topspin. So he's left himself a short cut here on the 8. Of course, very doable and he's favored to make it, but it's a little bit harder than you would have expected from that position. Ooh, that's not even close. I don't know whether, because he played it so softly, I don't know whether he was trying to play it as a two-way shot, that if he would have missed it, he would have left, covered the pocket. But, well, when you're going for the win or for the winning shot, I tend to agree with... oh, Ooh, Ricardo Cini, what have you done? And even worse, I don't think the 8 ball actually passes the 10, or does it? Yeah, you might have to play a very creative shot here. So the 8 into the bottom rail, off the 10 into the corner pocket. No, that's gone horribly wrong. That's the last thing he would have wanted. I firmly believe he's trying to, at the very least, cover the corner pocket, but all he's done there is present his opponent with a, well, golden opportunity to steal the first rack here. So both players have had, well, 2 or 3 chances in the opening rack, but it is the Italian Ricardo Cini who goes away with the first rack, and he gets the break now. If the previous results are anything to go by, it would seem like the 8 ball is his least favorite discipline, because he's had a lot of quarterfinals, last 16 showdowns in the other disciplines, but it's mainly the 8 ball that's been lacking in comparison. Like I said at the top of the program, he is a former European 9 ball champion, also a runner-up in previous years. But the 8 ball, well, it seems like that's the discipline he's had the least amount of results in it. It's tough to tell whether the 11 passes the 5. You tend to think not, but I think you could just see the edge of the 15 ball into the right side pocket. Actually, that was not the 11, I believe it's the 13. So it's likely going to be the 15 ball, but as you can see, that stripe ball up table is a little bit congested, so you'll have to play a very delicate positional shot, and it's also a tough shot to judge the pace on the cue ball since he is absolutely glued to the rail. Yeah, so much so he's now going for the 11 into the right middle pocket. It's a little bit easier to control the cue ball, although the pot is a bit harder as well simultaneously. That was nicely played. He had to take his extension there. But that's the golden rule in cue sports in general. You don't actually go down to play the shot until you're absolutely behind your final decision. A lot of balls have been missed over the years when a player gets down on a shot and they're still in between 2 minds. It's likely that he needs to come in between the 6 and the 1. And maybe gently hit the 6 from the back side. Although that little nudge was unintentional, but he's still okay on the 12 ball here. That could have gone wrong, of course. Also, from the 12 onto the 9, he would need a solid positional shot. If he leaves himself too much angle on the 9, that could be disastrous. I think he's just managed to get the cue ball in the right spot here. He should be able to drop on after putting the 9 ball here on the final stripe, which is the 14 ball. Going a little bit closer towards the 14 than ideal. Might even graze the 8 ball on its way. Yeah, he wasn't happy with the natural angle, as we call it, so managed to work around it. And, well, has to be said, 10 out of 10 for that positional shot. And if the 8 ball passes the 4, it's the most straightforward pocket. Trying to poke the 8 into the bottom right corner pocket. If not, he's got options here, of course. Can play for the side pockets, as you can see from this camera angle. And that seems to be the choice. Costas took most of the 30, maybe it's 35 seconds actually, I need to check that, but took the most of this shot time. Just tried to make sure he was well geared up to take the 8, managed to putt it. So likely the first rack was getting rid of the cobwebs for both players. So hopefully both of them can settle down and produce some of their best stuff. Yeah, that's your worst nightmare, isn't it? When you play what seemed on the eye a pretty solid break, and you get these, you know, a very even spread on the balls, but nothing drops. It just presents your opponent with a great chance to run the rack. What seems like a very, well, I probably shouldn't use the word straightforward, but it's a clear-cut chance, that's for sure. Ricardo using this opportunity to get rid of the 14 ball. What seemed a bit of a nuisance there. partially blocked by the one ball. Well, when he pots this 12, the remaining striped balls seem to be located in a place where he's got multiple options on them. Nicely slow roll by Ricardo. Now the 13 onto the 9 becomes a crucial part in this potential run out, because the 10, well, it does pot in, I would say, 5 pockets, but you need to land nicely on it, and he's left himself a lot more work to do now with this angle on the 9 ball. So he's likely going to play off 3, maybe 4 rails for the 10 into the opposite corner, middle pocket. Needs to inject a lot of power in this shot. Well, there you go. Missed the 9 ball. That's why I said, you know, the position from the 13 onto the 9 would be key. Left himself with a lot to do after the 13, and that's been the result now. This is a pattern you see very often, or well, maybe not very often, but it's definitely a common pattern. In 8-ball, usually when a player misses in the latter part of his run, it usually also indicates that he's, you know, cleared all the traffic on the table, which makes the run out for his opponent, the counter clearance, a lot more easier. And when you look at the layout here for Costas, well, he's spoiled for choices here. No ball is looking safe. All about keeping good control, good and tight control on the cue ball. But even then, so most of the balls are located pretty centrally on the table. Although that 5-ball wobbled a little bit. Needs to keep his focus. It never ceases to surprise me how one little shot, if for example he wobbled the 5-ball, lost his cue ball ever so slightly, and now it seems like he needs to, well, come up with a bit harder positional shots than what seems initially on the eye. Although he's managed to salvage the situation pretty well, if you ask me. Oh, what can you say? That is simply unforgivable. There's no reason at all why he should not have gone on to clear the table. And Ricardo Cini, well, back at the table, and I'm sure it's a little bit unexpected, even though as a player sat in your seat, you're always trying to keep a positive frame of mind. Doesn't need to do something fancy with his cue ball. Oh, he's punched it in, and he's done pretty well. I thought the 10 also went into the bottom right corner pocket, which seemed to be asking the referee whether he had an extension left. I genuinely feel that a shot clock is for a lot of players to their advantage. Like you can see, he's asked whether he had an extension. It was a clear no. Got down and potted the two balls as if it was nothing. So sometimes you wonder to yourself, why do you need more time? Since the shot is pretty obvious how you want to play it and, well, how you need to play it. Nevertheless, I believe he's taken a timeout. Gives us a quick chance to have a look on what's been going on the other tables. As it won't come as a surprise, most matches there's very little in it, as they've all started, well, just short of a half an hour ago. The biggest gap we can see right now is Konstantinos Konaris from Cyprus. He's 4-1 up against Valtteri Virtanen, who played a final in the 10 balls division yesterday. The majority of the matches, there's only 1 or 2 racks in it, so we'll have another look at this draw and results, the sheet further down the line. If we have a early winner, as the players have resumed this game. I'm sure it won't come by surprise for the watchers watching this live. We have another table available as well for you. It's the table 2, where you can watch the match between Adam Kirnicki versus Kim van den Uitenboogaard. That match is provided to you completely for free with live commentary from my dear colleague Graham Hickman. So you can always watch, well, you can even watch both, I suppose. Ricardo with a dry break for the second time in this match, and another good opportunity goes the way of Costas Giorgio. You see this happen a lot in 8-ball when a player has multiple options. Sometimes it takes a while before they make up their mind. I think he would have preferred to take the 10-ball first, and he can still attack the 10-ball if he wishes to do so. Well, he's preferring the 12 first. Now the pot, needless to say, is very easy, but it's always a little bit trickier to control the cue ball when the cue ball is so close to the object ball and you need to use the bridge. Very much so a touch and feel shot. Now if the 9-ball, well, you can actually put the 9-ball into the top right corner pocket. Throw the cue ball back just past the 7, and you should be able to land nicely here on the 10. So it's all about pace in this shot, timing and pace. Oh my days. Once again he's missed a shot that, well, you cannot be forgiven for. And in the previous rack, that didn't go unpunished. And once again, as Ricardo comes to the table, is left with a great chance to counter. It's not so much that the cue ball is close to the rail, but he's left himself a little awkward angle here on the 3-ball. Don't know whether he's got enough angle to punch it on and off the bottom rail. Might have to just roll this one in. Not happy with the angle he's left himself with. Yeah, he had a small angle. So at least the cue ball wasn't going towards the bottom side of the 5. Slightly lost this cue ball. I mean, this 2-ball isn't too difficult of a shot, but at the same token, it's a bit harder than it should have been. Needs to cue this well. Likely to let his cue ball roll forward. You can pot this one ball gently off the top rail, and well, if he implies a little bit of right spin, you would have options on the 6 and the 4 into the, as you can see here, into the bottom right corner pockets. He's not 100% satisfied, I believe, here. Trying to see what he's looking at. Yeah, that's the whole reason behind it. He wasn't happy with the angle he left himself on the 4. This shot here on the 6 into the same pocket. It's a tricky one because it's a pot into a blind pocket. There's a lot of pressure on this. You know, if you miss it, it's likely the end of the rack. And the cue ball, not the cue ball, sorry, the object ball never really got close to the pocket. I believe the 9 ball is touching the rail. So he's playing this with a lot of right spin. You're basically trying to hit the rail and the 9 simultaneously. It's a very comfortable shot indeed. Nicely played. And this seems to be the pattern in this match. Both players are getting, so far, 2-3 chances per rack. So the scoreline could have been very different indeed. After having missed initially a straightforward 9 ball into the top right corner pocket, it is Costas on this 8 ball to level the scores, and in it goes. I'm sure he'll be relieved after having missed the 9 ball in that pocket, but so far not all the mistakes are being punished. I'm sure both players will pick up on their game. Costas this time around opting for the timeout, so he'll get 5 minutes to return to the table. As you can see, on table number 2 is one of our featured matches as well. Adam Kiernicki versus Kim Uitenboogaard. The Dutchman 4-1 down to break. You can follow that match on our YouTube channel. So as Costas has returned from his timeout, both players can now resume the match. I believe they're both out of timeouts now for this match, so it will be non-stop action from this point on forward. Interesting. Costas is putting his cue ball perpendicular on the first ball, so completely straight. Be interesting to see if he can get a successful outcome on his break. Well, as you can see, with a lot of luck, the 3-ball managed to drop, but well, I've had the chance to do some commentary in the previous rounds on the 8-ball, and that break has not been paying a lot of dividends so far from the middle of the table. Costas looking to cut this 13 ball into the bottom left corner pocket. Yeah. I suppose it doesn't help if you run out of position so early on the... Oh, Ricardo just double checking whether a ball hit the rail after that missed attempt on the 13. If he wants to attack here, it has to be the bank on the 4 ball. Not interested. But unfortunately, it's not safe. He's left a shot on, well, 2 shots actually on the 9 ball. One into the top left corner pocket as well as one into the left middle. Just a matter of preference for Costas, you'd think. And also the cue ball, of course, not being glued to the rail makes the shot even a little bit easier. Got 5 and a 6 ball, of course, in a tough spot for Ricardo. Now that 4 ball is even added to the most congested part of the table. So we'll have a lot of back and forward before we actually see a clear-cut favorite for this rack. It goes without saying that Costas has a nice angle here on the 13. You could try and develop some of the balls there on the right side of the table, but well, he's rolled it in, so he's not interested in trying to win this rack attacking all out. Pot the 4 off the 9, play a safety shot. That's a clever shot. He's hooked his opponent on all of the balls, so it'll have to be a jump shot, you think. Costas likely to attack this 14 ball into the bottom left corner pocket, but he'll play this cue ball to go towards the right side of the table, although he's not digging down, so he's probably rolling this one. So as expected, it's now become a well and truly a tactical exchange. I believe Ricardo can just roll up to the 6 ball. Just needs to make sure that the 6 hits the rail, which is pretty easy to do. Trying to stick his cue ball onto the 7. He's gone about it in a different way, but it's the same result. Although, if, and that's a big if he can force a ball in hand, it's still not 100% guaranteed he can run this rack. Ricardo looking to develop the cluster of balls, or maybe not. No, in fact, he was trying to play safe. So, one by one, he's looking to develop the solids, but simultaneously hooking his opponent so he can create a better chance. It's called a bank shot there, but I was wondering, well, now the 8 ball does pass the 9. But previously it looked very tight. He needs to draw his cue ball anywhere past the middle diamond, or even onto the middle diamond would be good enough here for Costas. This will do. Easy natural angle to drop this 14 ball in for the 10 into the same pocket. And again, in with a great opportunity to steal the rack, you would say. Some players, they tend to play with the mini extension screwed on for the entirety of the match. Others are a little bit more old school. I'm also part of the second group. Prefer to play the cue as you're normally used to. Nevertheless, ever since he got back at the table after that failed bank shot by Ricardo, this outcome seemed almost certain. So it's the Cypriot that goes up 3-2. I believe the 14 ball does present a problem. But you cannot afford to miss shots like that, I'm afraid, Costas. It's actually a third ball he's missed into that pocket. That seemed almost unmissable. Surely that can't help your confidence. So far the pattern of this match has been, well, both players getting at least 2 chances, sometimes even more. It's becoming very hard to predict what will be next. See, normally you'd say Ricardo is heavily favored to clear this rank, but well, we've seen so many unforced errors. You just never know for sure until they actually pot the 8 ball. It's been nip and tuck all the way through. 3-all the scoreline. Gives us a chance to have a quick peek on what's been going on the other tables. Well, we have the first winner of this winners qualification, and it comes by the name of Sébastien Ramier from France, who's beaten Rüstem Aygunlu from Turkey, I believe. Well, that sounds like a Turkish name. Meanwhile, all the other matches are gearing up nicely. Of course, you can also find all of this on the IBPF website. You just need to make sure you select the right tournament. This is the Seniors 45 Plus event, the 8-ball division. And when you click on the draw and results, you'd be able to see who is been beating who and the actual score lines in the ongoing matches. That's an interesting layout. Not so sure whether I've seen this previously. It's almost looking like a one pocket drill. The striped. Ricardo clearly not happy with the outcome there on his cue ball. It's looking like the, well, yeah, the 2 ball is also potable, of course. Just signaling to the referee to have a closer look. It's a very delicate shot, this. It's not so much about the pot. Desperately trying to avoid making a push shot, as that 2 barely drops. Now, I don't think he can get through to the 5 ball directly, so he'll have to play this combination. And it's not 100% guarantee, mainly because he's not in a straight line behind the 4-ball. Safely in, but if that 6-ball doesn't pot past the 3, you'll need to come up with a big stroke on the 3-ball. I don't think the pot is too difficult, but needs to cue this really well. Yeah, actually played it rail first. And both players are taking a little bit too much time walking around the table. That's why, well, majority of the racks, they've already used their extension, as well as, well, just maybe ever so slightly overthinking the situation. Of course, sometimes it does require some mapping and planning. The 10-ball does pot into the top left corner pocket. If he wishes not to flirt with the 5-ball there, to the top right corner pocket, or it's actually the 3-ball, pardon me. When you misjudge these type of shots, it can make you look a little bit silly. I think that's in. Yeah, nicely played. Still not completely out of the woods just yet. You'll need to play a very precise positional shot onto the 9-ball. That is, of course, if he wants to run the table from this visit. And he'll get a chance to go towards the 9-ball here of this 15-ball. But the 4-ball and I believe the 13 is a little bit in the way of his body. What's the 4-ball in fact? Yeah. Lost his timing on the cueing. And I'm not so sure whether he's left a direct pot onto the 3 here. Well, maybe he has. Well, judged by the way Ricardo played that shot, I'm convinced that he's trying to play safe. And all in all, I think he's done a pretty decent job. So that very crafty safety shot by Ricardo seems to have created a great opportunity to take the lead again. Neither of the players so far have been able to clear the table within one chance. But as the match progresses and we're getting a little bit closer towards the finish line, whoever would step up, although he's lost his cue ball there. That's a horrible position to land in. To finish the sentence, whoever can just keep their opponent away, you tend to think if they can just find that extra gear, they could easily run away with this match. So far, both players are getting multiple visits to the table. A lot of turnovers. That's a nice recovery shot there by Ricardo. Left himself horrible on the 8, but still passes the test. Goes in front once again. Referee assisting the players. You could clearly hear him say it's a foul, ball in hand, illegal break, but he can either take up this ball in hand or re-break. Costas doing what probably majority of the players would have done. He can still make a lot of the most out of this opportunity. Yeah, puff of the cheeks. I'm not so sure what he's tried to play there, because 13 never passed the 15. I can only imagine he's tried to nudge the 13 there, trying to use the 13 to play position onto the 15. Now he's having to take this jump shot, and he's done well there. But of course that 13 ball still needs to be addressed by Costas. The easier pot is the 11 into the side pocket, but there's, well, maybe you can just drop the cue ball past 13. But whatever happens, he'll leave himself an awkward shot on the 13. He can also play this 11 into the top left corner pocket. It's a little bit easier to control the cue ball. And that seems to be the plan here. Try and drop this 11, or if he wants, he can play it a little bit firmer. Have his cue ball cross the table from side to side. Yeah, these are very awkward shots, particularly if you have to cue over a ball. So nicely done. Needs one more good positional shot here. Now there are several ways to play position onto the 13. You tend to think he needs to land on the right side of the table to have a realistic chance in potting the 13. The line is good. What is his pace? That seems absolutely perfect to me. Had to leave himself a little bit more distance with the cue ball onto the 8. This is not 100% unmissable, and I've seen him miss easier shots throughout this match. There you go. His cueing once again abandoned him. Normal circumstances, you would say he would make it probably 99 times out of 100. But so far throughout the match he's missed a lot easier type of shots than that. That's why it's a little bit tough to say with full conviction he was gonna make that 8 ball. Ricardo should be able to get his cue ball onto the left side of the table. Well, opting to keep it simple. So it'll have to be either the 6 or the 4 ball as the penultimate ball to play position onto the 8 ball. So after seeing Costas trying to level the scores, he's missed that 8 ball. This time Ricardo only needed one chance to counter and has now created a little gap, 5-3 up. In a race to 7, that's a nice position to be in. Unfortunately, the break once again not working out for either of the players. Which is an odd one because the rack is tapped. And normally you would think in 8 ball it will give you a decent advantage being able to break. But so far in this match, somehow the break has not been helping out either of the two players. Ricardo nearly there. He's trying to work out how he wants to leave himself on the 11. This is still fine, of course. He's got a small angle here. The only problem with this shot is if you trying to drop it in and you lose control of the cue ball, it can go behind the 5 ball. So that's the only problem in that shot. But having said that, he seems to have played it to perfection. And now this formality 8 ball to put himself on the hill. which makes him strong favorite for this match now. 6-3 up with a possible 4 racks to play. Only needs one more to book his place into the last 32. Costas, of course, at a point of no return, needs to make the most out of every opportunity he gets. And this is a good opportunity, alright. Of course, the 7 ball is a little bit tied up, but he can use the 3 ball to dislodge the 7 and the 10. It's not completely risk-free, but nevertheless, it's a risk he'll have to take at some point. And I must say, he's been pretty unfortunate, although he might have one last option available to him. He needs to pot this 5 ball, I believe, into the top left corner pocket. Or maybe he can't see the potting angle. Because if he can, well, I suggest he gets down and knuckle down. Because playing safe from this position seems equally as difficult, if not even more. No, that's not in. Played that 5 ball way too tentative for my liking. There's no real power in the stroke. There's a terminology called attacking the cue ball. You're literally just, well, assaulting the cue ball, if you want to call it that. And it basically means you're always accelerating into cue ball with, well, some shots like the slow drag is a little bit different. It's all about transferring energy into the cue ball, and well, it was a tricky shot, and given the circumstances, he knew as well There was a lot at stake. You see the very best of the game in the game. Guys like Shane van Boning, Niels Vijen, whenever they have to pull out a tough shot, usually they tend to cue it in a way where they can at least try and attack the cue ball instead of rolling it. Now from this camera angle, you tend to think the 15 does go into the middle pocket. If it doesn't, or at least it's a little bit too tight, you would have to play a decent positional shot, and I think we'll shortly find out whether it goes into the middle pocket. I do believe it goes. So Ricardo creeping ever so closely to the finishing line here. Just 3 more parts away for what has been, well, a tough old battle. Has to be said, neither of the two players have really shown imperious form. But of course, you can't always win every match playing your A game. It's important to grind it out every once in a while, and although the scoreline is emphatic, both players have had multiple chances throughout this match. But it is the Italian Ricardo Sini who prevails. Yeah, Ricardo just discussing with his opponent that the break was not working. That's the conclusion of this match. We still have another match going on table number 2, so head on over to that channel where you can probably follow the end part of that match. As for now, we'll be back shortly in the next round. Thanks for watching and keep an eye out on the streams.